Wouldn't it be more efficient for the system to kind of let us know what our purpose is and then let us work out the best way to get there?
No, it would not be, because letting us know is working with our intellect. Working with our intellect is not a profitable idea, because that's not where the learning is. All the change has to take place at the being level. You work with our intellect and we'll start slicing and dicing it in hundreds of ways, and everybody will have an argument and a point of view, and the intellectual chatter will just create this huge cloud of smoke and nothing will ever get done. If the system says, hey guys, you know, here's what you're supposed to do, you would have lots of people saying, what do you mean here guys, that's supposed to, who said that? That was a trick. That's not real. That's not the right answer. We shouldn't be doing that. We ought to be doing the opposite. And other people, yeah, but you know, this was written on stone tablets next to a burning bush. And they said, yeah, well, who cares? That was, you know, Hollywood did that. You know, it just doesn't work. To work with our intellect is just fruitless. We just spin around in circles, call each other names, make up our own story. Everybody who has a vested interest in it being some other way will, you know, spin its own tales and put its own spin on it. I mean, dealing with our intellect is like pushing on a string. You know, nothing happens.
But even so, it seems almost like the way it works now, that these psi effects, if Dean Radin talks about psi effects, and that there's almost like a filter which makes, if I have a dream that comes true and I tell my friends about it, it will just sail over their heads. It won't really, you know, they will just like brush it off. So it seems like there's a built-in Teflon jacket on everybody that makes them not register these. So, you know, if we were supposed to grow in that way, at least it would help not to hide it under, you know, camouflage.
It's not hidden. The system goes out of its way to shake people's worldviews up and say, hey, look, think out of the box. Look, the world's a bigger place than you think. It does that all the time to people. Lots of ways it does that. You know, if you take a survey, I've heard this, that you'll find about 80% of the people will claim that they have had some sort of a paranormal experience. Most of them never talk about it, but that's how many have. So it's really widespread. Well, why do all these things happen? It's not because these people, you know, are working on their intuitive side. The system creates this stuff just to help wake people up. It's trying its best to wake people up, but it's working through at their being level. And you have to get it there. They have to see it at the being level, absorb it at the being level, and change themselves at the being level. And just, you know, there's no way to do it intellectually. What would the LCS do? Take an ad, you know, in the New York Times? You know, how would it present this information that it wouldn't just cause an argument? You know, how does it convince people? You know, have the clouds, you know, cloud writing. Clouds would all line up and write a message. You know, that would be some conspiracy that, you know, the rich people are doing to trick all of us, you know, poor people. There's nothing that can be done that if it's at our intellectual level that would be useful. That's why guides generally won't talk to you if you want to talk to them at the intellectual level. There's no point. There's nothing they can say to you that's really useful. You got to get out of that intellect, and you have to get people at the being level to grow up. And we get a lot of that. You know, we have things like crop circles. Crop circles show up someplace, and there's, I don't know, you know, 20, 30, 40 acres of land that overnight in the dark, without sound and without lights, shows some intricate pattern that would take a whole team of surveyors 3 months to lay out. You know, and they want us to believe that a bunch of college kids and a few farmers, you know, run down there with sticks, you know, and do that during the night without making any noise in the dark. You know, well, what is that? Why is that? Well, people look at it, and because they don't understand the larger reality, they say, well, we couldn't do it. There's nothing that technology we have that could create that kind of thing overnight, quietly. So if we don't do it, who's doing it? Who else, if not us? Must be the aliens, right? The aliens do it. Yeah, well, why do the aliens do that? Now, that's a harder thing to answer. What's in it for the aliens to make crop circles? I don't know, maybe they're just trying to confuse us. But if you think, well, maybe the larger conscious system does that. Would that be hard to do for the system? Are you kidding? This is a virtual reality, That's the most trivial thing in the world, to make a design so so totally, awesome that the whole thing's rendered. It can render whatever it likes, wherever it likes. So it's trivial for that. And does it have a reason? Why would it do that? To wake us up, to show us that reality isn't this thing we think it is. It's a lot stranger than we think. It has dimensions and things happening that we can't explain. Therefore, we don't know it all. That's what things happen we can't explain tells you. It convinces you that you're not omniscient. You don't know it all, which opens your mind to other possibilities. And this stuff is just all the time. I had to talk to a lady whose mother died like 10 days or so earlier, and the phone rings, and she picks up the phone, and the voice on the other side is her mother, and says, hi, whatever, and some pet name that the mother called the daughter that nobody else knows, because that stopped after they were, 12 years old. I just wanted to let you know I'm all right. And the lady is so freaked out by it, she slams the phone down, and, does a lot of shaking, and then she thinks about it, and then she feels really bad that she slammed the phone down. Because I guess first she thought it must have been some kind of trick or prank or something. But then she realized that, no, nobody else knew that name. Nobody else could have called her that. It was her mom. Well, why does that happen? Mom isn't calling, on a payphone in the transition reality. The larger conscious system is sending this lady a message to open her mind and to make her relieved because she's grieving, and the mom says she's okay. You see? So the system's constantly doing that to people, giving them messages to, look, you don't know everything. There's a lot of stuff here that's beyond what you think. And just opening people's minds. Now go back to the scenario where physicists get that ball rolling, and ideas like, consciousness and, the point of being here is love and a couple of other things, and you've already had your mind squeezed open that it's really a lot stranger than you think, and you find out that something non-physical is more fundamental than us and creating this reality, and there's a purpose. Well, if your mind's pried open, you're really hungry for that. Say, yes, this makes sense. If you're really closed-minded and you're materialist and you never thought about that, you just deny it. Impossible. I can't think about that. You just turn it all off. Even if it's just there, even if it's fact, you just turn it off and deny it. So the more people that open their minds, the more likely we're going to get there. And I think the system's working the ropes pretty well, trying to get people to understand, just what you're saying, the purpose and why we're here and so on. It's doing what it can, but it has to work at the being level. It can't work at the intellectual level without doing nothing more than starting an argument. At the intellectual level, all we'll do is argue with each other. Nobody will really learn anything. It's got to be one person at a time. So 80% of the people have had something paranormal happen to open their mind. It probably didn't open many of their minds, but maybe just for a little while, but still it softened them up to the possibility